Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest monologue. Today I'm talking about imperialism. It's something that I've spoken about and mentioned many times in my monologues and other forums, but it's bizarre to me that very few of my countrymen, i.e., Kenyans, actually understand what imperialism is. They think, since we are such a literal society, they keep thinking when I talk of imperialism, I'm referring to the British Empire and colonialism, which that is part of it. But imperialism today is something very different, is something very subtle, cultural. Now, a few events that have happened recently have given me a sort of teaching moment to talk about imperialism. Now, in the news recently, the past couple of days, there's been a very disturbing expose of a teacher, somebody called Airo, who teaches at Alliance Girls High School. And it was done by African Censored. And there's all these accusations of he was behaving inappropriately, sexually inappropriately with girls under his tutelage and care. And this is multiple, there are multiple victims. It's not just one incident, it's multiple victims. But apart from all the frankly horrifying things people said about it, what spoke loudest to me was the silences. And which silences am I talking about? First of all, silence from the reported silence from the school administration, um, from some of the people who sought to take it up with the administration. The fact that this teacher is still teaching in that school today, the fact that no legal action has been taken either by the school administration, board of governors, or even parents of these unfortunate kids. Obviously, some of them are adults now, taking care of themselves. But those silences speak very loudly, and this is what gives me an opportunity to talk about imperialism, because that silence, that is imperialism, and this is how I mean it. Those of us who went to these so-called national schools, um, we are strangely hung up on the reputation of these schools. I personally went to Nairobi School. I still see people talking a lot about, and I'm members of groups where people talk about what happened back then when we were in school. And this is the best part of 40 years ago. 40. I mean, someone born when I left Nairobi School now has maybe got kids in primary school. That's the reality of it. But back to Alliance, we like making jokes in Kenya. Like, people are always saying, "I went to Alliance, I went to Alliance, I went to Alliance," and we take it lightly as a joke. That's imperialism. It's a system. It's a symptom of imperialism, albeit a harmless one. Now, the harmful one is like these silences. I mean, obviously, to all the people involved, the parents, many of the victims, the school administration, board of governors, alumni, to all these people, the reputation of Alliance as a top school and a place of training excellence, a center of excellence, is far more important than the welfare of one, two, or three, four, five, 10 girls, vulnerable girls. Far more important. That is the definition of imperialism. And let's say hypothetically, you decided to take this up. Personally, I've never been a parent at Alliance, but I've accompanied a friend of mine who was a parent to some visiting day. You'd be shocked at the company you're in when you're parents of Alliance, MPs, senators, members of cabinet, the who is who in the Kenya state system. That's how deep the belief in Alliance is. Teachers who leave after leaving Alliance usually end up, as in the principals, leave Alliance and end up in senior civil service positions, as is the case with all these other national schools. From Nairobi School, we've had headmasters or principals who've gone on to be permanent secretaries. Some from even Lenana have gone on to be ambassadors, etc., etc. These are system schools. and that is imperialism. Now imagine you took this thing forward, took up legal action. It is very likely that you would end up sitting before a magistrate or judge that was a student of Alliance. You know what? You know how bad that makes things for you. Let's say we took it to be someone tried to bring up a motion in Parliament to discuss it. We know the majority leader in Parliament today is an alumni of Alliance. Top government offices are populated by alumni of Alliance. I personally came face to face with this from another angle. There's also the religious angle. This teacher is a Christian, not I should not say religious angle, Christianity, because I can't speak. I haven't heard of this sort of in the from the angle of Islam or Hinduism, but I know of it from Christianity. He's also a Christian Union leader, a man of faith. Da 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 da. That makes it even worse for anyone who wants to take advantage of this, who wants to take action on this. Sorry, because imperialism came to Kenya hand in hand with Christianity, and the distinction between compliant people and non-compliant people in colonial days was usually defined by whether or not they have embraced Christianity. In Western Kenya, where I come from, the sort of elite chosen families, etc., these were defined by clergy. In central Kenya, it was defined more by participation in government, direct collaboration with government, the landed gentry, etc. But in Western Kenya, it was clergy. But all over, Christianity has this inordinate power over our systems. That's imperialism. We are currently discussing the construction of a church in no less than our state house. That's imperialism. But people, this is why we need to join the dots and see imperialism for what it is. I went to University of Eastern Africa, Baraton, a church-run institution. This is a university, and there were untold misdeeds, similar to what a hero is talking was involved in Alliance. And I got exposed to this. Despite being a man, I got exposed to this because I was chairman of the Students' Council. That's sometime in the 90s, and taking action, um, peaceful protests against this got me suspended. The only time I've ever been suspended from in my entire academic career, if I can call it that. And many students were suspended in after the brouhaha that came up from all these injustices, and the case was taken to court. And because there was no hearings, anything, you'd be told like the Bible says this, that, this Christian fundamentalism, and you get suspended. So students went to court and seeking redress. We ended up before a judge who was called Justice, I think Mary Angawa, from a staunch Adventist family. No points for guessing how that case went. Thrown out. This is imperialism. And this is why we have to face up to it, because we take it casually when we joke around people saying, "Oh, I went to Alliance, I went to Alliance." But when it comes down to an injustice done at Alliance, a poor girl may be harassed or mistreated in some way. Look at the forces ranged against her: the church, the school, the state, even her parents. How dare you complain? We've taken you to Alliance. We've given you a good education such that you managed to get to Alliance, and then now you're telling us you don't want to go to that school because of you're being harassed in one way or another. This is how we end. Imperialism makes us even mistreat our own children. That's the power of imperialism. Because the parents believe that the opportunities that may come to you from going to Alliance are more important than your welfare as a child. It's simple as that. Simple as that. That's why one of the things I promise myself is that I'll work hard so that my child will never go to any of these schools. Never. And that is something we have to face up to. I've just seen a couple of days ago, a friend of mine online was crowing proudly about the wonderful speech our president gave at some forum in London. And I said, as, because I mean, it's that's imperialism. What makes you proud when you see people from empire, the old country, clapping for our president. When we clap for our president here, we should be proud then. Not, I don't care what they think about him out there because it completely has nothing to do with me. And I looked at the speech itself. It was a good speech. Then I contrasted it with the same sort of with I contrasted it with the typical speech the same individual gives us here, and I was offended because they couldn't be more different. What we get here is usually almost profane shows of power, displays of power. I have no apologies to make over this, that, the other. I am doing this. I am doing that. And then again, Christianity rears its head in there. The devil doesn't like this and that. What will I tell God? These are the kind of speeches we are giving here. So if a good speech is given in London, I don't care because I'm not imperialist. So we need to check the things we do and the way we handle life and our families because imperialism is not something that ended in 1963. I've said it before. Imperialism is here in Kenya, and Kenya is extremely imperialist, despite the fact we are not an empire. And I said before that imperialism without an empire manifests as foolishness. It also manifests as cruelty and negligence and these kind of things. So we need to check ourselves. What are the symptoms of imperialism that we see around us? The unwanted because imperialism's key aim is to create hierarchies and to enforce hierarchies and to suppress those at the bottom, and as the system suppresses those at the bottom, as it uplifts materially and socially those at the top. That's a simple description of imperialism. So imperialism is not about the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, or this, that, the other. Those were empires, and those are imperialists, but those are gone. It now exists in our systems, even in our families. How many families have we seen where the kid who goes to Alliance is treated so much better than the one who goes to some county level school? How many times have we seen action taken against teachers for this kind of thing, for this kind of harassment? Can you imagine if this Airo fellow was a teacher in some county level school, secondary school? They'd throw the book at him. He'd be interdicted, maybe even prosecuted. Even villagers might be given access to him to beat him up because he's down there. He's teaching black kids, but he's in a national school. He's teaching white kids, and the school, the reputation of the school, the reputation of the teacher, etc., 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 has to be maintained above all else. Because we are in an empire, we need to maintain the structures of empire, and that, my friends, is the definition of imperialism. And as I intend to do maybe two or three monologues on this, and also bring out the symptoms in things we commonly see, because I see, because of our poor reading culture, very few people actually understand what many of these concepts I talk about. So I'll try and compare, try and try and point it out in some of the things we see, and the things, and unfortunately, that we have come to see as normal in public discourse, but are imperialist. I can even touch on just one now. Politically, this strange thing in Kenya that we call kingpins, tribal kingpins. I've been around a number of African countries and sort of tried to get a handle on politics around. It's around many things, but Kenya's is especially centered around tribes. That is imperialist. Because a kingpin is an emperor. You don't know how to exist without an emperor. You need an emperor to say you need a good school. You personally can't say you need a good school or what. You need an emperor to say that. Um, and acquiescence to the views of these emperors is enforced in an almost fascist manner. Some ethnic groups in Kenya don't have kingpins, and I'll always say members of those ethnic groups are the luckiest amongst us, because that's a sign of civilization. You are somehow beginning to escape from imperialism. And the so-called stereotypes or tribal stereotypes we talk about in Kenya, these are remnants of imperialism. It's the colonialists who actually appointed colonial officers to come and describe the Luo people are like this. They are tall, they have big noses, or they have high cheekbones, and they are proud, and they have many wives, or this guy. Those funny stereotypes. Or the Kikuyu people are like this, or the Maasai are like this. Those were in colonial documents, and we hang on to those things today. Even colonial educationists like Carrie Francis in Western Kenya, you say so and so is a brilliant student because Carrie Francis said so. Haven't we heard that? Especially those of us from Nyanza. Carrie Francis said that guy was a very brilliant student. I kept wondering, who is this Carrie? There was a time it was so much talked about when I was young that I used to think Carrie Francis was someone who was still around and maybe running the exams council or something. But that's imperialism for you. It's comical, but the comedic part of it hides the deeply harmful part of it. So if you keep going around, I went to this school, which school did you go to? You are an imperialist, just the crown on your head. If you keep going around talking about your reputation of so and so because he's a Christian, he can't steal or he can't do this, you are an imperialist, just your emperor's robes. So, and if you go around with this classism, trying to judge someone by where he comes from, where he went to school, what ethnic group he is. These things, it's a casual glance that sees them as petty prejudice like tribalism. But in truth, those are imperialism. If you meet a man my age and you start wondering, oh, which high school did he go to? And this was 40 years ago. That's imperialist. What I learned at Nairobi school has no contribution to what I am today. None. In fact, I am what I am today in spite of Nairobi school. So I don't go writing in my CV Nairobi school and all that. No, what I say today is what's important, and that's what should define how one relates with me. So let's check our imperialism and let's actively fight it. We are not fighting an empire somewhere. Fight it at home, in our families, amongst ourselves, and the places we work and where we interact. That's when it will sort of filter up and we become a better country.